Good morning. My name is Alan Timberlake. It is my honor to serve as a host of this event on behalf of Colombia's World Leaders Forum. I'm here as director of the East Central European Center, a center which studies the geographical arc of states on the western edge of the former Soviet Union from Bulgaria to Estonia, and therefore includes Albania. It's gratifying to see several of these states represented by their highest officials here at Colombia in the World Leaders Forum. Earlier this week, the presidents of Estonia and Slovenia, and today it is our honor to have Prime Minister Edi Rama of Albania. His presence here is evidence of the new vitality and visibility of these states in today's world, and we are honored to have the Prime Minister as our guest today. To introduce our guest formally, I would like to call on David L. Phillips. Mr. Phillips has an impressive record of service and activity in various roles in multiple domains of public life, in government as foreign affairs expert and senior advisor to the Department of State. Second, as fellow or teacher in academic institutions. Third, work in policy think tanks. Fourth, in human rights organizations. And fifth, in communication as an analyst for news outlets and as an author of numerous papers and several significant books, notably his recent book, Liberating Kosovo, Coercive Diplomacy and U.S. Intervention. Closer to home and closer to the present moment, David Phillips is now director of the program on peace building and rights within the Institute for the Study of Human Rights here at Columbia. Mr. Phillips.
Thank you very much, Alan. Falam Dere Shom. A warm welcome to Prime Minister Edi Rama. Your visit here comes at a wonderful moment for Albania, because Albania is really surging as a country. In recent years, it's gained NATO membership, it's acquired EU visa liberalization, Brussels has provided a 12-step plan for its candidacy. We've also seen Albania play a very constructive role as Kosovo has gained its independence. Albania is now covered with infrastructure, with roads and utilities, and it's weathered the financial storms of Europe. So this surge is also met by very high expectations. During the recent campaign, Mr. Rama made some important pledges to the Albanian people to eliminate the flat tax and the VAT, to decrease taxes on small and medium-sized business, to create 300,000 new private sector jobs, free health care, subsidized food and fuel. The Albanian people clearly now are looking to Prime Minister Rama to provide the kind of guidance and leadership that will bring Albania closer to Europe and fully integrate Albania into Euro-Atlantic institutions. So the mantle of responsibility now rests with you. You're very well suited for this great task, being an artist, an athlete, as well as a political actor. You served as the mayor of Tirana, beginning in 2003 for many years. Since 2005, Mr. Rama has chaired the Socialist Party of Albania. He led it to an overwhelming victory just recently on June 23. And just days prior to coming to the United States, the government transition was completed, and Mr. Rama is now fully installed as Albania's new Prime Minister. So it's with high hopes that you are welcome to that office and very warmly welcomed here to Columbia University. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for finding the time, all of you, to come and listen to me in one of the very first exercises of speaking to an audience as Prime Minister, which is not an easy exercise because I'm used to speak since many years as leader of the opposition. it's quite a change of language. But anyway, I'll try, and I hope that you'll not get bored. Because I think one of the things that change from opposition to government is the increased risk to be boring. It was 1990 when in Albania a first important blow was given to the communist dictatorship. Mass movement and student movement had pushed the single party's leadership to accept the existence of other parties. Albania had then a pluralistic political system. People could be represented by political forces other than the Communist Party that had ruled with an iron fist since 1945. It was symbolically the end of the dictatorship. Easier said than done. We want Albania to be like Europe was back then the slogan of thousands in the streets. Young and old, women and men, people who in their lives had never traveled outside the country, everybody wanted Albania to become like Europe. This slogan did not represent simply a dream or an aspiration. It stood as a firm belief in the capacities of the country. It stood as a claim of identity. It stood as a demand to return to the path from which generations were forcefully derailed. It stood as a clear statement of the will of the people. Since then, all the political parties in the country have been proclaiming integration to the European community and then the European Union as their main aspiration and the main aim of their political and governing programs. Quite wise and legitimizing in terms of representation, though easier said than done. It was 1990 when the Eurovision Song Contest was won by Toto Cutugno with his song Insieme, 1992, or otherwise known Insieme, Unite, Unite, Europe, 1992. The song that gleamed in the voices of thousands referred to a common European flag, citizens beyond frontiers, and a common European dream. Cutugno was accompanied by a Slovenian group in his performance in Eurovision when they sang "Europe is not far away, is not a dream anymore, let's come together and unite, unite Europe." Beautifully said, though easier said than done. The title of the song pointed out to a year, 1992, the year when the European Union was set to begin functioning as such, the year of the Maastricht Agreement, through which the European Community became the European Union and set the foundations for an effective and active union through the objectives of democratizing the EU institutions, developing a common foreign and security policy, establishing police and judicial cooperation in criminal matters. Otherwise, through establishing the main pillars of the European Union. That same year, a new era was also opened in Albania with the March 1992 elections, when finally, after more than 40 years of totalitarianism, a political party came to power through people's free vote, representing their aspirations and will. As the song inspiringly proclaimed, we thought we had found each other in Europe. We thought we had finally found Europe in Albania. Though there was a long way to go for United Europe to enact its unity in terms of a common European identity that would supersede national identities, in terms of European institutions that would have a firm say over national institutions, in terms of well-functioning European common markets, including a European single currency that was not perpetually threatened to be thrown away each time a European government experiences economic difficulties. But most certainly, there was a long way to go for Albania in terms of building democratic state institutions, civil society, a justice system independent from politics, a state administration immune from corruption, and simply a process of free and fair elections. The difficulties in regulating a national market that, up to that moment, had been totally isolated from foreign investments and totally dominated by state monopoly were immense. Because immense was also the appetite of politicians that had finally an individual grasp on national resources. But also immense was the desire of individuals to catch up with the opportunities denied in long years. Moreover, the educational system had long before the early 90s failed in responding to the necessities of a world developing in scientific research and technology like never before. So the country that thought to have finally rejoined Europe was faced with limited knowledge to build democratic institutions similar to those in developed European countries. A chaotic market economy, an inexistent civil society, and a state structure incapable to respond to the new challenges and to that belief, no matter how subjective it was, we want Albania to be like Europe. On the other hand, Europe, that finally had a union, was going to be faced with challenges that even today put the union into question, as they are fundamental challenges related to the quality of democracy. You will find the debates of French intellectuals, activists, social scientists on the frontiers of democracy quite revelatory in that matter. The nature and the meaning of European citizenship, the debates of citizenship beyond borders, active citizenship, bottom-up decision-making, acts of citizenship of intellectuals and researchers, particularly in the UK, are very clarifying in this aspect. The viability of European single currency. In this case, you will find national debates about the pros and cons of the euro, and particularly analysis of Greek crisis, very interesting and useful. Nevertheless, the challenges Albania had to face were more critical, and Albania was soliciting membership to the European Union. The European Union has been since then a key incentive for democratization and modernization. Brussels became guidance to democratization and modernization in the country. However, the relationship has been one of Brussels as a mentor, putting forward homework assignments, and Albania, but also other Balkan countries, as spoiled students that never finish their homework as they should. After long years of such mentorship, we in Albania had a legislative framework pretty much responding to Brussels' demands. But we had a reality radically different from what Brussels expected. Actually, I think that we did the homework in a very creative way, submitting to Brussels a lot of very well-filled papers, like hanging beautiful curtains that hid behind a totally different reality. For that much, Brussels has seen from the interior side of these windows, and from that much, legislation and various common projects with the EU have affected the everyday reality in the country. Albania is a potential candidate that has signed the Stabilisation and Association Agreement and expects the candidate status in December this year. After long years of transition from a totalitarian regime to a democracy that is called functioning democracy, although it has not really been functioning, and after long years of nourishing an imaginary of Europe, we know that we want Albania to be like Europe. Otherwise, the proclamation of the will to integration to the European Union should not be a propagandistic leitmotif, but a totality of concrete state reforms toward modernization and democratization. It should not be a process of producing very correctly filled papers or thousands of meetings between bureaucrats, but a system of values and institutions we discuss largely and implement, targeting the quality of people's life and future generations. In the early 90s, Albania said we want Albania to be like Europe, but politicians afraid of taking responsibility, started to talk about our journey towards the European Union. The metaphor of the train was used. Albania, a train that was moving fast towards Europe. And as a leader of opposition, I was also sometimes accused of not being in that train. But which one? The one full of papers? The one that was moving the rails of governmental propaganda? Yes, I am not in that one. Because Europe is not a destination beside us, beyond us, external to us. It is a destination within us. It is a daily democracy in our country. It represents the awareness that our day-to-day actions as decision makers affect the life and opportunities of people today and generations of tomorrow, the next generations of Europe. Key to the new agenda approach to EU enlargement in the Southeast Europe should be this awareness that the common future of the next generation of Europe is built in member countries as much as in candidate countries, as much as in potential candidates, which means in Southeast Europe. Thus, the question should not be how to make Southeast Europe ready for the European Union, but how we all together can build the united Europe, how we all together can make the common European future. And this common European future, like in Toto Cutugno's song, is a future where we reach out to each other in order to build a set of values, institutions, to have quality of life, a space to live together with common ideals. I believe that this approach would provide a new dynamic to this mentor-student relation. It would enhance the perspective of cooperation and collaboration. It would increase the responsibilities of all the parts in terms of the effects the membership and integration process have in citizens' daily life. What the new agenda in EU enlargement puts the Southeast European region in front is a larger, denser and three-folded cooperation. Collaboration within the Southeastern European region, collaboration of the region with the EU, collaboration of each country with the EU. The first two are explained as a combination of objectives, Southeast Europe 2020 strategy with Europe 2020 agenda. Yet there is still an important way to go in this combination, because I think there is an important way to go in regional cooperation and in transforming the Europe 2020 agenda in concrete steps that affect the quality of life and daily democracy in each country. So we are not only in front of the challenge of making stronger the link between national and regional level, or the challenge of complementarity in national level with Europe 2020. We all together, potential candidate states and member states, face the challenge of addressing sustainable, inclusive, integrated, smart growth and governance for growth, each included in Southeast Europe 22 vision, coherently and blended with Europe 2020 agenda. We all together are confronted to the challenge of putting daily democracy, citizens' quality of life and improved rule of law at the heart of a sustainable development and growth-oriented agenda. This degree of cooperation brings to my mind the approach, histoire croisée and reflexivity, of two French social scientists, Bénédicte Zimmermann and Michel Werner. It reminds me of histoire croisée as shared fates and reflexivity as shaping each other's fates. Using some elements from their approach, I would say that in the region we have to find our intercrossing and particularly how we affect in good each other. We have to find how we could collaborate in micro level, regionals, particular products, trade, particular offers, but not to the detriment of the general. Particularly in the region, we should start from our divergences among various possible viewpoints to reach our convergences, to multiply them and promote them. In terms of the above-mentioned three-folded cooperation, we should be mindful of both short-term contexts of action and the long-term structural conditions that make it possible, so we could be able to manage change and stability at the same time. However, changing scale to come back to an individual country, Albania, it seems to me that the result-oriented cooperation, mainly highlighted for the regional cooperation, should be particularly mentioned for the collaboration of EU and particular countries. Because, as I said, we in Albania have many EU-certified laws prepared with a lot of assistance, which required also a lot of energy and financial sources, but we have, as you must have heard, a rampant corruption which drains a lot of energy and financial sources. An endemic political and administrative corruption that stands as a huge obstacle before democratic institutions, justice, sustainable growth, and even before the development of the educational system in the country. An endemic, invasive corruption that is still there in spite of all the progress towards EU membership, taking into account that Slovenia, Croatia and Bulgaria have been more successful in this process. Could we say that this is a problem particular to Albanians? Not necessarily particular to, probably a very serious systemic problem in Albania. I do not believe that are the citizens, the people, that corrupt a system. I believe that the system, incoherent with the needs and aspirations that build it, corrupts the people. The system in which an Albanian public official works is far from being democratic or responding to citizens' needs. Thus, it can be corruptive for whatever individual involved in such process, while in cases where we do not have such corruption. Let's mention the French or German system. It is almost impossible to use the administrative machine for personal and or individual benefit. The modern and democratic administrative mechanism I refer to obviously requires law, regulations, technology, but also and mainly it requires now political will. I believe that the best way to fight and prevent corruption in short term is the modernization of the state institutions. You will say to me now, easier said than done. Yes, I would say, where there is will, there is a way. Here is an example. The first foreign guest with institutional power to visit my office as mayor of Tirana was Krik Portman, at the time World Bank country director. This constituted an extraordinary visit because his predecessors, but also him, had not previously been in the municipality of Tirana. Actually, World Bank's country office staff had been to my office several times, but they kept on noting the problems we reported. And I kept on talking with them about Albanian history, art, literature, even Albanian culinary art or climate, unless they were willing to discuss a concrete project. My refusal to talk serious subjects, unless it was a project, was reported to the main office in Washington, referring to the strange mayor and his free chat formula. This had taken the attention of the country director, who decided to visit the strange mayor. With great modesty, as every wise man, Krik Portman, an impressive personality, sat in the guest corner of the office and said to me, "Would you like anything to drink? Tea, coffee, still water, sparkling water?" "You are Krik Portman," he said to me, "World Bank country director, and I am Edi Rama," he said for himself, "the mayor of Tirana, for whom the World Bank has done nothing." I congratulated him for the good shot and explained that I was ready to go beyond the free chat formula with the condition of not receiving the habitual answer, "What an interesting project, but unfortunately it does not suit to our programs. It was nice to meet you." He accepted, and on my invitation we both went to a small window at the waiting lounge of my office, siting the back part of the municipality. There were 2 barracks constructed during the Kosovo War. Various services on the city hall were offered from these barracks. People waited in long queue to obtain various certifications, permits, informations, or submit a complaint. The employees inside the barrack, responding to the citizens from the small windows, could process or not these requests, could respond or not to the complaint without having anyone checking their responsibility or the efficacy of the service. Moreover, in order to deal with the endless queue and have their requests processed or to obtain whatever permit or certification required, citizens went to the back door of the barrack, bribed one of the employees inside, and the job was done. Actually, we saw with our eyes someone knocking to the back door and offering the penalty to have a service provided by law. Preventing all this from going on was not about catching the corrupted employees on the act, dismissing them and replacing them with others. Preventing all this passed through providing to those employees decent working conditions, to the city dwellers a decent waiting lounge, a computerized system registering requests, a system that provided monitoring throughout the process. Fighting and preventing corruption passed through transformation of space, regulations and procedures that would reshape the relation of a city dweller with the city hall. What I asked from the director was the financing of such a space for the city hall. Thought not only we discussed a larger project that through reshaping its space would reshape the whole functioning of the municipality. A functioning henceforth characterized not by bribe, long queues and exhausting ineffective service, but by transparency, professionalism, self-respect and respect to the citizens. The waiting room became a first in its type in Albanian administration. Tirana municipality became the first European public institution in the country related to the citizens. The project, a success story for the World Bank, and the beginning of a long, successful collaboration between the City Hall and the World Bank. So said and done. Though it requires will, political will, the same will need to transform the process of integration to the European Union to a chain of results, visible in the daily life of each of our countries in the Balkans. Will to transform Europe to what is supposed to be since the Marshall Plan and the Washington Agreement, and the European Union since the Rome Agreement, then since Maastricht and lately Lisbon, a space of prosperity, a place with natural, not imposed borders. And not in vain I mentioned the Marshall Plan and the Washington Agreement, because this determination to integration to the European Union is not about Eurocentrism, about worrying only for the region or ourselves while we live in a deeply interconnected world, where it is discussed about global citizenship, connected histories, interrelated faiths. No, the determination to integration and to Albania like Europe, the nourishing of an imaginary of Europe, united Europe, is about contributing to the success of a brilliant international project, the European Union, that would contribute to the prosperity of millions and to a better world. This project is brilliant due to the values in which it is based, the harsh experience on which it was built and which it should avoid forever. Due to the social, cultural and political sensitivities it endorses and the democratic institutional framework it aims to build. It is brilliant because it defies the nation, not the nation as an entity of hope and liberation, but as an entity of prejudicing and discrimination. With the agreement between Serbia and Kosovo lately, our region closes for good a chapter of conflicts, while it opens for good a new chapter. For the Albanians, Kosovars, Montenegrins, Serbians, Macedonians, Bosnians, this must be a start of acting and enacting candidacy. Acting so not to remain waiting what kind of legislation Brussels would propose, so we adopt it. But it does not matter if we adopt it. Acting to be active part, even in the formation of this legislation, and acting to transform it into reality in our countries. Acting to be result-oriented in the process of fulfilling the criteria of membership. Enacting means not expecting how Brussels would propose to combine Southeast Europe 2020 strategy with Europe 2020 agenda, or leave this to some inter-ministerial meetings, but including larger popular debate on this, including the civil society in such debate, including universities, be more and more inclusive and more result-oriented. In terms of enacting, I think that Croatia and Slovenia constitute important examples to the other countries of the region. They have been distinctively successful in the EU membership process and could be crucial guidance, also in engendering an effective regional cooperation. This moment of a new agenda, a moment when many things have been done, but much remains still to be done, and innovation is needed, can be grasped as a moment of change. Change in our approach, change in our way of acting, change in our way of cooperating. So let me go back to the beginning that of European Union and that of Albania in its way to the European Union, and say, as the song goes, insieme, together, with this awareness that the common future of next generation Europe is built in member countries as much as in candidate countries, as much as in potential candidates. Unite, unite Europe. And yes, easier said than done, though, as we saw, it just takes will. And with such will, it can be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Excuse me. Thank you, Prime Minister, for that honest and inspirational speech. I especially appreciate the willingness to address corruption and the appeal to regional interests. We have perhaps a dozen minutes for questions. I would ask you to ask one question. Please don't say, I have 3 questions for you, sir. Say you have a question. Thank you. And we're also interested in his response, not in your political opinion, so I'd ask you to ask a question and not tell us about your political opinions. With that warning, let us begin. I will look and see if I can see about 6 people and commit their hands to memory and then go around the room. We'll see how long that takes.
Good morning to everybody. Emre është Arbëri. My name is Arbëri. Unë vim nga Shqipëria. I come from Albania. Shkolla ime e mesme është Worldview High School. My high school name is Worldview High School. My principal is Dr. Nichols. Mirdita Zoti Rama. Good afternoon, Mr. Rama. Është kënaqësi e madhe që jam para jush. It's a big pleasure that I'm in front of you. Pyetja ime është, my question is, cili është plani yt për vende pune dhe taksa? What is your plan for jobs and employments?
Yeah, thank you very much. You are merciless. First question, toughest question. I'll try to be short. We have a big problem in front of us, because our sources of growth that so far has been instrumental for our economy are practically not anymore there as such. Remittances from immigrants have fallen down dramatically, and just consider that they were around 15% of our GDP. The construction boom is over, so in general, the economic model of these years is somehow exhausted, although it was a model based in a jobless growth. So our challenge is, on one hand, to find new sources of growth, and on the other hand, to have a growth based on creating new jobs. And for sure, this is something the country can afford, because we have important potentials and we can generate new resources. I would mention very briefly our potential in hydro. We are the 2nd richest country in Europe for water resources. Our potential in tourism, in rural development, and also in oil and mining, And last but not least, our potential in developing a much larger network of manufacturing, which has shown to be pretty successful so far, but which can grow and create new jobs.
We're alternating from mic to mic, so we'll take the next question from the person who's standing in the front there. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister. I believe you voted and directed your party to vote for the President of the Albanian Parliament, or Chair of the Albanian Parliament. The same man that you said 2 years ago was the most corrupt man in Albania. The same man you led a protest against where 4 people got killed. If corruption is something that you're battling, how can you guarantee no corruption in a country where in fact you're ensuring it with your own votes and your own directives?
First of all, we created a coalition named Alliance for Europe, for Albania, and for European Albania, which got 1 million votes. So this is the best answer to your question given by the people. People decided to vote for this coalition in the largest numbers ever. And on the other hand, my answer for you is very simple. I mentioned it also in my speech. It's not people corrupting systems, it's about systems corrupting people. So fighting against corruption for us in Albania is modernizing. It's making the system immune from personal agenda. And this is the way to make it.
Hi, my name is Adam Halbert. I study anthropology and archaeology. My question is this. It's a little bit different than his. How has being an artist made you a better leader?
How?
Has being an artist made you a better leader?
I don't know if it made me a better leader, but I am here because of the context. I think my history is not any particular in the context of former communist empire. In the moment of change, many artists and intellectuals got in the scene as leaders or as part of anti-regime movements. Many of them continued to do politics. Many of them failed. I hope it's not my case. We'll see.
Thank you.
Mirëse erdhe, Kryeministër. Welcome, Prime Minister. Drian Gashi, Columbia SIPA alumnus. Because I'm originally from the region, you could guess that I spend a lot of my leisure time in Albania. Very beautiful. I'm from neighboring Kosovo. And just this summer, less than a month ago, I was in Dermi, one of the most beautiful places in Albania. And every time I try to tell my American and foreign friends about visiting, I always hope that the infrastructure is just a little better, because I'm willing to be like, I'll go, I'll enjoy it because it's nearby for me. But what is your goal in terms of improving infrastructure so more people can have it easier to see what Albania has to offer tourism-wise?
We have a hard time to convince people to come because Albania is not a place to go, but it's a place to always go back. So once they come, then they always want to come back. So the challenge is how to make them come first time. And first time is not infrastructure that is in their mind. Is this image of the country which is quite dark and which has been legitimately, but also not legitimately created for people all over the world. So, of course, we need to improve infrastructure, but the most important thing to be improved is our image abroad. And in that respect, I am really grateful to you and to everyone here coming from Albania, because you are the most wonderful asset for us to improve our image. And I want very much to open a new chapter in the relations between the country and the government, with you, with the well-educated or on the way of being well-educated Albanians abroad in the States or in Europe. And we'll have soon some initiatives in trying to reach out to you and to work together for improving the image of our country and for making Albania an easier destination. Because one thing is sure, once they come, then they come back easily. So our effort should be to make them come back first time.
Sir.
Thank you. I want to congratulate you for your elections that win, and thank you for you are here. I want to thank Mr. David Phillips and Columbia University for organizing such things. My name is Salih Bolati. I was born in Albanian Chamria region in Greece. I am one of survivors of genocide of Greece against Albanians in 1994. I was very glad with your program in election, that you are out there, that Cham's question will be resolved. I am curious to know how it will be resolved that is one law in Greece, that Albania and Greece are still in war. And the second is that we are both members of the NATO, and we have another treaty friendship with Greece. Excuse me.
No, this is a long story and it takes a long speech.
No.
But
Sir, let him answer, please. That's enough. Thank you.
But
his answer.
yeah,
Please.
You want the answer or you want to have a speech? You choose.
No, I am not
no.
dancing.
I'm sorry, it's his answer.
I'm not an artist. I'm not a
Sir,
painter.
sir,
I'm a
please,
chemical engineer.
his
Yes.
answer. Thank you. You're
Exactly.
done.
Okay, so the answer is in our program, and thank you for having read it and for appreciating it. We are the first political party ever in Albania to put it straightforward in our program, and this will take a process. It's not something that can be solved nor by fueling the fire of nationalism, which would be a disaster, either by stepping back. So we need to engage in a dialogue, and we need to engage in a process in full respect of international agreements and international laws. So, and this is solvable. I'm very confident.
Hi, my name is Anna Katz. I'm a Barnard alum. You've talked a lot about changing the political landscape in Albania, but you've also done a lot to change the physical topography in the country, specifically with your master plan, your redevelopment of the master plan for Tirana. What do you perceive as the roles of urbanism and architecture in reimagining post-communist Albania, and how would you like to see Tirana develop as a city?
Thank you very much for the question, because it touches one of the most sensitive points in my vision of the country. I strongly believe that our country needs total reshape in terms of physical organization and in terms of physical protection and in terms of sustainable development. To not develop further as we did in all these years by destroying our resources. Because for sure Albanians live better today than 20 years ago, but Albania physically is not in better shape. We have lost a lot of agricultural land, we have lost a lot of forest, a lot of sustainability in all parts of the country and in all layers. So we need to engage in a huge urban development plan and reform. And we'll do it because it's very much linked with the economy, it's very much linked with the well-being of our communities, and is very much linked with the next generation. So thank you.
Question there.
Hi.
A little louder. A little louder.
Hi, Ms. Prime Minister, and I'm a Chinese overseas student, and you know there's very special relationship between China and Albania once in history, and now I just have a short question that is, how do you comment on present Sino-Albania relationship, and what kind of constructive role do you think China can play in terms of building up a better Europe? Thank you.
Yeah, we had a very special relationship, to be truthful, and I was very surprised when I went in Beijing some years ago, and we went in a place where you could make shirts, and being 4 or 6 XL, I don't know how big I am, I need this, and so we went in a place where they were doing it in a quite fast and cheap way. And I was surprised that once the ladies there knew that we were coming from Albania, they started to sing Albanian song. So it was a time. It was a time. But now it's a new time, and it's a different era, and thanks God we are not nostalgic of that time in terms of dictatorship and all this. But for sure, China is a very important partner. For sure, we are very much willing to increase the cooperation with China and to welcome more investments from China, and we are having some very positive developments in that respect.
Thank you very much.
With that, sorry, I would like to thank you and give you a few moments, if you wish, to comment further, or as you wish.
Thank you. I started by saying it's one of my very first, if not the first, exercise to have a speech as Prime Minister in front of an audience. And believe me, it's not easy, because it's a completely different position, and the language should be a bit different. It's like this famous joke. Someone was talking about his camel and saying, I have a camel, it's the best in the world. It walks miles and doesn't ask anything, nor to drink, nor to eat. It eats once a week, and it's enough. It drinks one every 3 days. And somebody listening said, can I buy your camel? And the guy said, of course, there is a price for everything. So if you want to buy it, just propose me the right price. And then the guy buys it with a very important price. And a few days later, he calls back and says, what was all this propaganda? This camel is broken. It's asking me 3 times a day to drink water. It doesn't want to walk more than a mile and then rest. It's sleeping hell. What is this? This is impossible. How you could sell it to me? And the other said, don't speak evil about your camel, because you'll not be able to sell him. So it's a bit like government and opposition, no? And I'm very thankful for your patience, and I hope it was not just out of being very well educated, but also something was interesting in my speech. And I very much hope that if my grandmother would be here, she would not be disappointed, because as she told me when I was a kid, in every time that I was disappointed with something, my son, don't worry, sometimes you can be wrong. Sometimes you can make mistakes. Mistakes are for people. Sometimes you can disappoint people. It's okay. The only thing you should really worry is to please don't be boring. So I hope I was not boring. Thank you.
Actually, very, very good work. Thank you. Well done.